Hold on, it's starting to record. Okay. So, hi everybody, welcome to our 1:50-ish type of time frame session. We are glad that you're here this afternoon with us, and we're hoping that you are getting a lot out of the conference. If you're having any issues, please call our support line and we are more than happy to help you. We will be having a presentation with E3 today. He has partnered with ESA as well as BryanISD, he being Vince Zubacek. So we're going to hear a presentation about BryanISD's Lone Star program experience. So he provides a lot of good tips and kind of a perspective from the engineer as well as the public entity. So it's a little different way than what we have looked at it before, so I hope you guys enjoy it. We have Paul Buckner from BryanISD and Jim Brown from ESA as well with this here. So they will be on the line after to be able to answer any question, the answers that you might have. As we go through this, if you have questions throughout the presentation as it's playing, please feel free to put it in the chat box. This is a true webinar like all of them have been, so you have to put it in the chat box if you want to be heard. So I'm going to go ahead and get it started. And if you have YouTube issues, you need to clear your cache. That seems to be the cache or whatever. That seems to be the fix for most people. And if not, these are being recorded, and I am trying to get them on as soon as possible. So I've already uploaded a couple from yesterday. I'm just working on getting those done as we go through the day. So we're trying to get those to you since we know you guys put aside time this week to watch them. But I'll stop talking and let you hear the presentation, which is really why you came here today.
Okay, well, hello, and we welcome all of you to our session today on utilizing the SECO Lone Star program from an energy manager's perspective. Most of you in the audience probably know about SECO, the State Energy Conservation Office, and the many programs that they offer to public entities. They're often presenting at conferences like the TEMA conference and really getting out the info on the many programs, good programs that they have. What we'd like to do today is talk a little bit about one of their programs, the Lone Star program, from the perspective of a school district that is currently going through making energy efficiency improvements by utilizing this SECO program. The school district is BryanISD, and we'll be going through the steps that BryanISD has taken to utilize this program and hopefully give you guys some insight on how the process works, how the program works, and the benefits that it can bring to you. My name is Vince Zubacek. I'm with E3 Integral Solutions. We are a design build energy efficiency firm based here in Texas. And as you can see from the slide, you probably know the folks that are going to be presenting with me today and discussing the project at BryanISD. We've got Paul from Bryan and we've got Jim and Chris from ESA. Give these guys a minute to introduce themselves. Why don't you go ahead, Paul?
I'm Paul Buckner. I'm with BryanISD, as Vince said. I am the energy and construction manager for Bryan. I came on board with BryanISD probably, it's going on about 6 years as the energy manager, and then probably two and a half years ago took over construction as well. So my role has definitely increased through that, but so part of my role as construction is I oversee all of our construction projects, whether they're bond related or not. And then all of the typical energy manager duties as well fall under my role. And then as well as my roles with BryanISD, through the Brazos Valley chapter of TEMA, I am the chapter representative for the state board. So with that, I have a spot on the state board of TEMA as well.
Right. Yeah. Appreciate your willingness to be with us today and talking about your project. We've also got Jim and Chris with Energy Systems Associates. Again, I'm sure many of you know these guys, but I'll give them the opportunity to introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I'm Jim Brown, founder of Energy Systems. I've been doing this job for a long time. I've been working for the State Energy Conservation Office for about 30 years on various projects that they they have. And this Lone Star has been by far, in my opinion, by far the best program that the SECO or the comptroller has placed in the hands of public entities. We've been involved with TEMA from the beginning. A TEMA member from day one, and we're looking forward to working with you guys on this. This is a program that it's going to be an interesting perspective, and I'm excited to get into the discussion.
Excellent.
And I'm Chris Carter. I've worked with Jim at ESA since 1997. Our role in this particular project is to serve as SECO's technical consultant, which means that we're representing both the school district as the loan recipient and SECO in order to make sure the guidelines of the program are followed and that everybody gets what they are expecting to get at the end of the project.
Excellent. And it's a very important role, and appreciate both you and Jim being on this session today. I think y'all provide some good insight just into how some of the details of the Lone Star program work as we talk with Paul and go through how he saw the process from his side. So again, welcome. I'll be moderating the discussion with these guys, so looking forward to talking with everybody. Today's objectives are pretty simple for what we'd like to accomplish in this session. It's really just hear from Paul and Jim and Chris about the Lone Star program as it relates to BryanISD, and hear from their firsthand experience in working through the process with BryanISD's energy efficiency project, from development all the way to its current state of construction today. We're going to have that discussion, and also as part of moving through this session today, we'll discuss each of the major steps of the Lone Star program and have Paul and Jim and Chris provide their feedback on those as we go through. But hopefully in that respect, it can also be a learning tool for those of you in the audience on how, if you decide to move through the Lone Star program and the process, on how it might work for you. And then we'll wrap up by having Paul talk to us a little bit about his lessons learned, his takeaways, and the benefits that he sees from this Lone Star program. So I'll go ahead and kick it off just to give everyone, if you're not that familiar with the Lone Star program, a little bit of a 30,000-foot view of what the program looks like. So for those of you that don't know, SECO is the Texas State Energy Conservation Office. They're a division of the comptroller, and they have various energy efficiency programs for public entities. One of their longest running, I believe, programs is this Lone Star program, which is a low interest, either 1 or 2% low interest loan for energy efficiency projects for school districts, state agencies, higher ed universities, and cities and counties. So everybody in the public sector can take advantage of these programs. When you do an energy efficiency program, there's specific projects that can be implemented through this program, and then there's certain requirements that you must meet in order for this project to be eligible for the Lone Star funding. And so we're not really going to go through the details of that today. You can look on SECO's website for those details, but just know that there's a lot of good energy efficiency projects that you can do in your buildings and utilize this program to get it done. Applications are accepted on a first come, first served basis. They do this basically on a yearly rotation. In fact, applications just closed on August 31st for their fiscal year, but typically the application process will open back up later this fall, October, November time period, to where you can submit those applications. I believe the maximum loan application you can submit in one application is $8 million, but an entity can actually submit up to 3 separate applications for up to $8 million. So you have plenty of opportunity to take advantage and get some comprehensive energy efficiency projects done. Then, as Chris and Jim mentioned, as you go through the process, ESA or one of the other companies that are assigned with SECO go through certain technical steps to make sure that all of the technical criteria of the Lone Star program are being met. And then wanted to give you the contact information as well for Eric Funkhauser at SECO. He's the new program director for the Lone Star program. We've got his email and phone number here if you guys have any direct questions for them. Before I move forward, Jim, Chris, anything you guys would want to add? Y'all are the experts on this program as far as something that the audience might know before we move forward.
Yeah, let me throw in some additional stuff. That we all have been talking about Lone Star for 25 years or longer. I'm still amazed sometimes that some people just don't know that it exists. Yet in the early 90s, there was some sort of mistake. There was an oil overcharge or an overcharge for taxes at the gas pump, and a lot of the major oil companies had to send money back to the federal government, and they pass it on through to the citizens of America. New Jersey, I think, sent a check to every citizen for like $2.30 or something. State of Texas had a little longer term perspective than that. They put it into a revolving loan program. And it's been incredible over the years. So far, they've funded something like 325 different loans. They've loaned out, as money came back into the program, they've loaned out about $545 million worth of projects. And at last count, as of May of this year, the savings that the public entities have gained through this program have amounted to something like $665 million. The average payback is extended at times because it's an awfully good way to get non-energy saving projects into a loan program like this one, because the cumulative program has to have a 10 or 15-year payback. But you can put really long-term, long payback projects into the program as long as you combine them with some really short-term payback. So our experience with this program over the years, our firm has done like 55 of these Lone Star reports and projects over the years, and through that, plus the work that we're doing with the SECO, we're just sold on the program. We continually want to be a part of this program. It's been very beneficial to our clients.
Excellent. No, that's great information, and hopefully we can build off of Jim's comments today by letting y'all know that, you know, this is not a new concept. This is a program that's been around for a long time, and BryanISD happens to be going through the process right now. And so you've got a lot of resources out for those of you in the audience available to you to learn more about this program and get it implemented as you see the need for energy efficiency projects in your buildings. So let's bring Paul in now. I really want you to give the audience some feedback, Paul, on, before we talk about Lone Star, I think that the audience can really relate to your story of how your project came to pass and how it took you and just grinding with your admin and your board and discussions upon discussions over 3 years in the making to make this project happen. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, it's been an ongoing project, and it's still at times like, don't believe that it still is, that the project is actually happening right now for us. When I first came over into BryanISD, what was going on was there really was no database or anything going on with utility records. I was given binders of just random information, and that was their data keeping. And at that time, BryanISD was, the projects they were doing they were converting over to LED, but it was doing like one campus at a time. And it was just going to take an extremely long amount of time to get all of the campuses done, to the point where we would have had to start redoing campuses before other campuses even got touched. But taking 3 years, it took 3 years with, I tell everybody, timing is everything with funding sources. And in the very beginning, I hear budgets were good, everyone was happy. And then since then, utility rates have gone up. We've had to pass a couple of years of deficit budgets, and it was just, the district was wanting to do a more comprehensive project instead of piecemealing little bitty projects where you can calculate out the savings, but you don't really see the savings on your utility bills. Where this is making a big splash and going across the district, where we will see very good savings over the life of this project.
Excellent. And it sounds like from your and I previous discussions that you, as you went through this long process over multiple years, that you built an ally within your organization. I believe that was the CFO at the time. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, we have. So my district has, in the 6 years I've been here, probably 3 years ago now, 2 to 3 years ago, we had an administration change. And the CFO, when I first came in, she, that's who I started talking to first about doing some type of district-wide project and how to fund it. And originally, we never even went down the path of SECO and Lone Star. The original plan that we were coming up with was doing some type of performance contract. However, my school board, once we took it all to the finance committee, which has 3 members of our school board on it, they were very against performance contracting. So, and me and Amy Draws was her name. Her and I started finding other resources to look at. And one of those, which Vince mentioned earlier, I believe it was Vince, that I have heard SECO brought up in breakout sessions at multiple conferences, whether it was the Texas Energy Managers or other conferences that were going on about the Lone Star program. And I presented that one to her, and that's ultimately the one that took off. But during that, we had a superintendent change, and prior to all of it getting approved, Amy, our former CFO, she retired. Then we brought in a new CFO who was part of the district previously, so I didn't really have to sell him too much. He was already on board. But it was a new superintendent came in, and with an interim in between, and just trying to get them on board with what the original plan was. It took time, but I can say that they're finally here, and we've been implementing the project now for about a month now, Vince?
Yeah, a couple months. Yep.
All I'd like to just kind of jump in here, because it sounds like you had more or less the dream team that you worked with. One of the things we really experience as an obstacle for Lone Star is the fact that it is a loan, and it gets tied into your M&O side of your budget. And CFOs are really reticent to add another loan to the budget, even though they realize that it's money that is already budgeted that was going to go to the utility company anyway. There's just that reticence that they have to jump into a note of any major size. But what we have been finding is once a CFO does a project, there's third project tends to go a whole lot easier down the road, because it is a very, very simple project, a loan project. The CFO is usually the one that you as the energy managers out there need to go and get them on your team, spend some time with them, explain the program. And if you need somebody to help you explain the program, just give us a call. Give Eric or Eddie or any of us a call, and then we'll be more than happy to help you get this process, at least get the story told. We may not sell them, but we'll get the story told.
Oh yeah, but buy-in from your administration is, I mean, it would have still been me just talking about it if there was never any buy-in from anyone above me with wanting to do something as well.
Absolutely. No, that's great feedback. It's getting that financial person on board sounds like it was a huge catalyst to finally getting things moving for you. Let's talk a little bit. We're still at the beginning of your process, Paul, but at the time when you finally got a green light, let's say, for a project, talk a little bit to the audience about what your vision at that time for an energy efficiency project was, and specifically hit again on the fact that you were doing some piecemeal projects and that this might allow you to do a little bit more.
Yeah, so like I was just stating, like when I first came here, they had done the summer before I joined, they did an elementary school, part of a renovation, full LED. And then the first summer I was here, they had me do an elementary, and they told me, hey, here's the elementary school. We want this one to be LED. Okay, so I went down, we got it done. And then afterwards, I started questioning, why was that school chosen? Because it would not have been any of the schools I would have chosen to convert over to LED. And there really was no reason. It was almost because it was one of the first ones in the alphabet kind of deal, it seemed like. So from there, then I started putting it together, like it's going to take us around 25 to 30 years to go district wide to LED. And by that time, we're going to be replacing the first 5-6 years worth of LED projects. So then I made a change to, let's get away from doing a campus by campus like this, because we'll never get complete with it. We'll always be doing this. And I went to the mindset of, let's get rid of the worst lights first. We started with our gymnasiums and some of our parking lots, of changing out the high wattage metal halides to LED. And we were able to, greatly improve the light quality and quantity of light in our gyms, and our parking lots were more bright and a little more safer. And then I'm also part of a district that BryanISD does not allow me to turn off lights at night. They want all exterior lights on, basically from dusk till dawn. So what I started playing with was using some type of occupancy vacancy sensors on my parking lot pole lights, so that if I can't turn them off, at least I can dim them down to 50%, 75% of light quantity. And then I still have my parking lots lit. And as there is either foot traffic or vehicular traffic through the parking lot, then they'll light back up to 100% and fully illuminate the parking lots again. So, and then I also learned through all this that my school board is a very big proponent of going to LED. And one of those reasons is because I kind of equate it to change an energy project with LED. They can come in, they can see the change, they can touch it, they can bring friends and say, hey, look what we did to our parking lot. Here's a picture before, here's a picture of after. Whereas doing a controls project or something, or some type of a retro commissioning type deal, it doesn't get as much tread because they can't see that. They can't touch it or anything. They can't go and show anybody, hey, look, we optimized the controls over here. Well, there's really nothing for them to show or anything. So the vision that we had in the beginning was really just lighting and just changing going from a fluorescent metal halide to a LED district. And that was one of the main catalysts of this SECO, of our project, is the LED lighting.
Excellent. Yeah. So you kind of put it all together that was going to be what helped you move this project along, was a project that could be visible to everybody in the school district, from administrators to the kids to the parents.
Yeah, and I even had principals were some of my advocates too. Of what we were doing too through bond work was, if an addition was put on to a campus, it would get LED, but then the older part of the campus still remained with traditional lighting. And principals they weren't really complaining, but they were voicing when we would do walks and stuff like, hey, how come we can't get the whole building this way to where it all looks the same? It's all the same light. So that was kind of a catalyst too of I've got schools that are wanting this because they've had an addition and the new part does, the old part doesn't, and you can visibly, and that was part of it too, is taking some of the administrators over to these campuses and showing them like, here's the difference. Like you could physically see the difference between the fluorescent lighting we had and the new LED, and how much brighter and more light was going to the classrooms, the hallways, and everything.
Absolutely. And it has a greater effect when you do it from a comprehensive approach versus a piecemeal approach.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Absolutely. Now, that's some great feedback. Before we jump into the process, I think that you've told the story pretty well, that we can see how you got to this point. But maybe recap a little, Paul, on maybe a little bit of the beginnings. I know you heard about Lone Star from SECO presentations, but maybe how did the Lone Star program maybe aid in helping you get the ultimate green light for this project? And how did it fit in the equation when you were finally able to get this pulled together?
All right. So why we chose SECO ultimately there to do this comprehensive project was originally our plan was a performance contract. Like I mentioned earlier, my former CFO, she liked the aspect of a performance contract where it kind of had that safety net just in case the calculations weren't correct or it didn't work as we thought it would, that we still had that safety net on the savings. And that was the original path we took. And we took that to our finance committee, which consists of a few school board members. And immediately they were very much against a performance contract. And looking back on it now, I think part of it was due to, I don't know if they were burned in the past as a district years ago by a performance contract where something negative happened, or if I know they had concerns of they did not want to share the savings. They wanted the savings to remain BryanISD instead of a company getting a percentage of their savings. So, me and Amy at that time were instructed to find another avenue, whatever it may be, to go down and bring those options to them. So I started looking at grants. I started looking at other options. And of course, at that time, there were no grants for anything. There were, and I kept going back to Lone Star, which I originally had in my head through different conferences and different classes and breakouts that I've had at multiple conferences I've been to, and started looking into it and brought the SECO program to Amy, which in turn I found out through that she had actually done a SECO project for BryanISD in the past and remembered how easy it was and how well it went when that project was actually lighting was involved again, but going from the big jump from the T12 to T8 fluorescence. Oh. And so we started putting stuff together on it, and we took that back to the finance committee, and that was chosen to kind of, that's the avenue we want to look at. Well, during that process, we had an administration change where our superintendent left the district and went to another district, and we had an interim superintendent, and I was told just to kind of put this on the back burner. Let's get a new superintendent in, then we'll bring it up. We got a new superintendent in, and it was for the first 6-8 months was let's let her get her feet wet, get adjusted to the district, get to know everybody. Let's not pile this on her yet. So finally, all these time periods started going away, and I was able to get it back in front of the finance committee, back in front of the superintendent. And during that process, I took on a different role or extended role with BryanISD. So I had a little more, my opinion and everything was heard more with the new role I'm in, with having construction has helped the energy management side, because I do get time with school board superintendent, our CFO, our chief of staff on a regular basis now. So, and SECO going through it was a very easy process for us with the financing. We were able to not have as, we were able to decrease the amount of our bond with this. And it was able to fill in the gaps as well that bond wasn't able to take on, and free up money for other projects that weren't going to be able to happen through the bond funds, but now they are as well. So SECO has definitely come at a time for us where funding was getting difficult with our budgets just because of we were having to pass some deficit ones. And this gave us an opportunity to reduce one of the main costs of a school district is utilities. And this was on a district-wide approach to lower those costs, to save the district money, and in turn upgrade our campuses for student learning.
Awesome. Yeah, that's just a great story. I think a lot of the folks can in the audience can relate, especially energy managers and in the with public entities can see that it takes time to get these projects moving, but it can really bring a lot of benefit once you're able to get that process started.
One of the things that we see, guys, is that you would think that school districts that have big bond programs are the least likely to get a Lone Star loan. But what we're seeing is just the opposite. Every school district in the state of Texas has all this deferred maintenance and old equipment that they need to get rid of. And those are the kinds of projects that you can slip over into Lone Star and free up a lot more money for your new construction and for your other projects that you want to do. So we're seeing a lot of school districts go into a combination of bond and Lone Star projects so that they can get it all done.
Oh man,
it seems to be working that way.
That's a great point. That's a great point. That just if you rely on bond programs to get projects done, that does not preclude you from looking at the Lone Star program to make energy efficiency improvements.
Oh, we got Paul on the spot here. I was going to ask him a question about the CFO stuff. For those in your district, Paul, that really needed that additional assurance, that guarantee, they really love the concept of that reduced risk. Did it help to have SECO, who was bringing in another engineer, going over all the calculations, looking over the design, looking over the installation? Did that relieve some of their fears?
Oh, it completely does. Having ESA as one group that overlooks it for SECO, but also through that design build, having another third-party engineer looking over it as well. So there's really going through it. I look at it, I have an engineering firm that BryanISD has hired to look over it, and as well as ESA through SECO, I think there's pretty good eyes on it, running these calculations and verifying what is going to happen. And they gave a lot more, not really like relief to the district, but also to me, because I did not want them to everything have to be made off of my calculations and me making sure I carried the numbers correctly and not. So it was a very, that did ease the tension of these large projects, is having all the eyes on it through SECO, and then also through the third-party engineer that we've hired.
Excellent. No, great point, Jim. Great point, Paul. Just really another benefit of the Lone Star process to help bring it together is the oversight that a school district or a city and county can get with the assistance from SECO. With that, we're going to move along a little bit and take all of you through the Lone Star process through Bryan's eyes. What we've got here on the slide is the steps of the SECO process condensed here a little bit. The first step is a loan application that you will have to fill out in order to get in the queue to get funds reserved through the Lone Star program. And most entities that utilize Lone Star either submit a preliminary energy assessment or a utility assessment report with that loan application to provide some depth on what the project looks like. And those are two different types of reports. And so Jim and Chris, if you guys don't mind spending a minute on the difference between a preliminary energy assessment and a utility assessment or report before we move forward, would love to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, this is Chris. The Lone Star program ultimately will require you to do a utility assessment report before you can get the loan finalized. But the steps that you can take towards getting that can involve that you only have to submit a PEA at the time you do the application. A PEA is a preliminary energy assessment report. It's less detailed than the UAR in terms of calculation and review, but it's enough to get SECO's attention and demonstrate that you have projects that are worthwhile for consideration. The PEA is a program that you can also get funded through State Energy Conservation Office, where the school district doesn't have to pay for that out of pocket. There's a separate program, Energy for Schools and Local Government, that you can apply through SECO to get that done. But that report is sufficient with the commitment letter to get your money reserved, and you start a timeline in which you have a certain amount of time to get your architect or engineer to finish up your Lone Star report, or the UAR. And the UAR is that much more detailed report that has backup calculations to demonstrate the energy savings will be there, which are subsequently reviewed by the technical consultant. And it's almost an investment grade energy report, almost an ASHRAE level 3 type of report that has to be provided. There's a fee by an architect or an engineer to prepare such a report, but that fee can be rolled into the loan so that the school district does not have to pay that out of pocket.
Great insight on that. And the preliminary energy assessment can be a tool as well to help the district move forward with a project. Paul, why don't you speak on, you decided to get a preliminary energy assessment done instead of moving straight to the utility assessment report. To talk to the audience just for a minute about why you chose to get that preliminary assessment done.
So we chose to do the PEA for one of the main reasons was to have, we knew we wanted to do lighting, but we also wanted to maximize the SECO Lone Star program, where we want to do as much as we could through the funding and knock out as much as we were able to. So the preliminary assessment allowed us to see what other projects that we could pick and choose from that would fall within SECO's guidelines and would meet all the requirements and give us energy savings, and that we could still pay for through the loan. And what it was able to do was, not only were we able to do lighting, but we were able to do ventilation control, power conditioning, and optimize some of our control systems as well at a multitude of our campuses. But basically what it came down to is the maximization of the savings through SECO, because that through a lot of these things, the lighting payback helps me with other payback periods to bring them down to an overall payback that falls in within SECO's guidelines. And once I do lighting, I'm kind of, it becomes a little more difficult to find the projects that'll fit in without that bringing down the payback time period. So that was just wanting, but really just maximizing everything and getting as much as we could through this project at this time. Excellent.
And I'll add as well that there are many companies out in the industry that can do these preliminary energy assessments for free if you'd like to get one done. And SECO offers that service as well to provide the engineering firms that they have, with ESA being one of them, give you the ability to go through SECO directly as well to get a preliminary energy assessment done. So it can be a great tool for you to determine what kind of projects you want to get done.
And this, just to clarify, Paul has mentioned a couple of times that there's a maximum number of years that are allowed in one of these SECO, these Lone Star projects for payback. And it's actually two maximums. If a project is more than 50%, more than 50% of the expense goes toward HVAC, you can have 15 years to pay. Less than half of it is HVAC. You only get 10 years for the payback period.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where I fell into, was that less than 50% with the 10-year payback.
Yeah.
And Vince, I want to reiterate, BryanISD was very smart to include those other projects into the total program. I do know some school districts have been tempted to test the waters with Lone Star by doing the really easy, low-hanging fruit like lighting all by itself and get used to the process, and then try to come back and do another Lone Star with some more difficult payback projects. And the problem is, when you use all that low-hanging fruit at once in your second Lone Star, because you can have up to 3 at any given time, you lose that buy-down power, and it makes certain HVAC projects very difficult to include in Lone Star, because there's no exception to those timelines. If it can't be a 15-year payback, you can't do it on an HVAC side.
Oh man, that's a great point, Chris, because it really opens up your ability to get other projects done that are not just needed from an energy perspective, but also from an operational perspective in your buildings.
Yes, sir. And BryanISD was very good about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the school district gets the preliminary energy assessment done. They get commitment from their administration and board to move forward with the utility assessment report. At that point, after they submitted the preliminary with the loan application, they have 140 days to get the utility assessment report. I won't go through in detail what the utility assessment report entails, because Chris went through that, I think, in very, very good detail. It's a more detailed report to come up with the project and ultimately what you will end up executing a loan agreement for with SECO, with the state. But want you to comment, Paul, on, so the UAR is done. It's, you're ready to go with the project, and we'll talk briefly about the scope in a minute. But having done the preliminary and then going through the UAR, when you got to that endpoint and you're ready to do a project, were you happy with where you were at that point? Did the project meet your vision and goals?
Yeah, I would say it for sure did. Because like I mentioned, not only did we do lighting, but we also were able to do the power conditioning, controls optimization, and outside air reduction. But I know right now outside air reduction probably isn't I don't know the exact word for that, but it may not be the best thing to do with the COVID virus. But remember, with me though, this project was determined in December, I believe, is when my UAR was completed. And we kind of locked in these projects around December, January, before COVID was even brought up anywhere and everything. So, but we have that in place, and we will make changes on how we operate, how we run our equipment and everything to meet guidelines for COVID, as well as still retain some energy benefits with everything.
That's a great point. Just briefly, I've got up here the actual summary from the UAR submittal for Bryan, and you touched on it nicely, Paul. The overall project was driven by lighting upgrades, and you can see the payback, but there was also some EMS optimization and controls installations, I believe, at one campus, and we had some optimization projects across many campuses, some ventilation control, which included meeting some outside air targets and including bipolar ionization from an energy efficiency standpoint. I know that right now ionizers are a hot topic for disease and pathogen control, but it can also be a good energy saver. And so as we move forward with the district here over the next several months, we'll see how that's a best fit for Paul and BryanISD's outside air needs there. And then also the power conditioning, which is a system that provides a combination of power factor correction, reducing line losses, surge protection, harmonic filtering that can actually generate some energy efficiency in your buildings. And heck, Paul, that part of the project's already done. So
yeah, the power conditioning's done, and the lighting is well on its way at one campus. We chose to start with the large campuses first and start going down to the smaller ones, and they are it is impressive on how quickly they're moving through our largest campus.
Yep. So here's where you're at is another summary on the scope. You've got your EMS optimization, you've got LED lighting retrofits, 28,000 fixtures, ventilation control throughout, power conditioning throughout. I'd say, to say the least, a nice comprehensive project to get your energy efficiency needs accomplished.
Yeah, we're excited about the end results.
Absolutely. Hey, from a scope perspective, Jim and Chris, anything you guys would want to add on this scope as it relates to maybe what you guys are seeing in the market right now or in the industry?
Well, from SECO's perspective, one of the rules and guidelines of the whole program premises is that it is an energy efficiency program. It's not just an equipment replacement program. So the goal of the program is to reduce your energy dollars, which allow you to pay for the projects without having to tap into fund balance. Therefore, the program does require that you save energy in the program. So for instance, the control system replacement at one of the campuses for Bryan, where there was an existing control system, is only possible through the additional retrocommissioning and optimization practices that are going along with it. You can't just replace a control system where one was already existed before without doing those other steps to make sure that you're saving the energy. And saving the energy is what our role is to assure both to SECO and to the client.
Yeah, yes, I would add that we've been in the beginning with Lone Star, all that SECO would allow us to use as our payback calculations were energy savings. But just recently, as a matter of fact, last year we just had a revision to the Lone Star technical manual. We're now allowing some soft costs like maintenance savings. If you got a really bad piece of equipment and you can prove to us that you've got X number of dollars that you're going to save by getting rid of that 100 horsepower motor, you can include that now in your payback calculations. There are limits to that kind of scope. There are some things but there are just some things that you can definitely prove that I will get this savings for the next 3 years or the next 5 years. Let's say you put in rooftop units with a 5-year full parts and labor warranty. Well, then if you've had a service contract on those rooftop units, you can count that as a cost savings. So that change has done a lot to open up Lone Star for other public entities that before they made that change, they just couldn't quite make the 15-year payback period.
Right, and now you can. That's a great adjustment by SECO. Really appreciate that they've been able to do that and really open up some more projects for entities to get things done. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. For Bryan, they had over $760,000 in annual energy savings, and that doesn't include operational and maintenance savings. And so they're really able to tap in not to just the energy savings, but also getting seeing that additional benefit outside of the scope of the savings of this project. We'll go through the next steps of the Lone Star process. Keep it moving is the utility assessment report is done. It's turned into SECO. And now here's where the technical review kicks in, where in the case of BryanISD, ESA was the company that came out and performed site visits and actually reviewed and did an analysis and approved the utility assessment report. So Jim and Chris, why don't you just take the audience briefly through the work that you guys do at this step?
Yeah, the goal for the technical consultant in this point is just to verify the energy calculations are not exaggerating the possible savings from the measures. Our role is to make sure that the client can pay for the projects with the energy savings that are stated in the UAR. And so that's for their protection. And then another step SECO requires is for the technical consultant to visit the site and see the equipment that's going to be replaced, and just make sure that it confirms to the report that's been reviewed.
Absolutely. So a big step, again, protects, in this case, protects BryanISD, making sure you're getting a project based off of sound calculations.
Yes, sir.
So you've got the technical review done. Now it's back to the school district to get the project approved and implemented. The next 3 steps here we kind of combined as they go through. There's really only need to touch on it a little bit. You've got Once you've got the UAR approved, SECO will send you a loan agreement to get your board or a commission approval to move forward with the improvements from there based on the findings of the UAR. Once you've done that, once you've hired your contractor, you can then start the design review process where, again, Jim and Chris's firm or one of the SECO approved firms will review the design by the contractor of the improvements that are made, and then the contractor can begin doing the work. As they go through the work, they'll be submitting their typical monthly invoices to the school district for work done. And at that time is when in this case, BryanISD can receive their reimbursements on the loan account to pay the contractor for that work. And so SECO has really done a great job in streamlining these parts of the process. After you enter into that loan agreement, you do a conference call with them to go through everything. They've now made the reimbursement process in order to get your loan funds completely online. And so it's really been an easy and smooth process. And Paul, Jim, Chris, any additional comments you guys want to make on these steps of the process? These are the steps that with the loan reimbursements that this is where Bryan is at right now in the construction of their deal.
No.
I don't really have any. It's just been a fairly easy process through that so far.
Absolutely, absolutely. So moving on through construction, as you move through, you'll have a construction review process. SECO requires that they come out at the 50 and 100% level as construction. Bryan is not at the 50% level yet, so that step has not happened. And then once the project is complete, the construction reviews are complete, then you move into the process of repaying your loan back on a quarterly basis to SECO for those improvements. Chris or Jim, anything you guys want to mention about the construction reviews, the 50 and 100%?
No, if I would jump in right here, it would be it would be leading you astray because Chris does all the work at ESA. So he's the only one who knows anything about this stuff.
Well, the purpose of the 50% and 100% construction reviews are really just to make sure that everything that was approved in the design review has been installed. The purpose of the design review is just to make sure that all the equipment identified in the UAR that's going to produce the energy savings is included. Just as a second way to make sure that value engineering or changes in the field that are done during construction are accounted for, and that the savings is not adversely affected. If there is something that happens in the field that has to change the way the energy savings might be produced, then we require the author of the UAR to go back and adjust their energy savings calculations to reflect those changes. Again, it's all in an effort just to protect the final client, in this case, BryanISD, to make sure that they're going to get the energy savings that will allow them to pay for the project without having to tap into fund balance.
There you go. Well said. And we've got, throughout the presentation, we've got a link here to SECO's website for the Lone Star loan funding notice, which again did expire on August 31st, but should be opening up here pretty soon. That's pretty much our presentation on the Lone Star program. Paul, I'll kick it over to you to conclude and maybe just talk for a minute or two about kind of the lasting benefits and takeaways and lessons learned that you're seeing from your seat on this program.
So some of the lessons learned that I learned on this was the main one. When Vince asked me this, the main one that jumped out to me was to get the procurement process established early and go through all of your channels that your district does require. That was something that took quite a bit of extra time on BryanISD's part because we thought we were going the right way, and then turns out we weren't. So we had to kind of switch gears and kind of had to do double the work at times on getting everything procured and getting it all signed off. But it was definitely a lesson learned in that. And then one thing like I was mentioning earlier, you can't get anywhere with this project if you don't have support from your district administration and as well as your school board. without their support, the projects just remain something that you talk about and that you wish for. Timing is everything on this project. It is or it was for me, with utility rates that were increasing, and then on the flip side of a deficit budgets, it was the perfect storm for us to do something on a district level, and that something was came to life through the SECO program. And then I can't say enough how easy it has been to work with. Mostly it's been Eddie, and then Eric has come in here towards the end of our process of getting everything approved. But both of them have been tremendous help and a great resource to reach out to make sure everything we're doing is correct and everything. And it's been a great project for BryanISD. We're really excited about getting this project completed and seeing our energy savings, and who knows, maybe doing another loan in the future through SECO. Excellent.
Very good. Man, really can't emphasize enough, Paul, you're taking time to talk about your project here. Any last words, Jim or Chris, from your side?
I would just remind everybody that here in just a few more weeks, there'll be another announcement for what's called a Notice of Loan Fund Availability, or a NOLFA. It will be announced on SECO's website. SECO has to sit back every year at the beginning of their fiscal year and figure out how much money they've got in the pool to be loaned out. But I'm telling you, I can't remember a project that when you follow the steps and you follow the rules and you get your UAR in correctly and the application in, it's going to be funded. So, I'm not giving any guarantees, but I haven't seen any that were not. If they meet the 3 or 4 basic rules of the program, and like Vince said earlier here, you really got up to $24 million available to you in 3 $8 million loan applications. And that $24 million goes a long way when you're focusing on energy consuming equipment. Yeah. So keep Lone Star in mind. It's a program that's there. The comptroller oversees it. It's safe, and it's just a good program. Okay.
Chris, any last words from your side?
No, Jim said it all.
Very good. Very good. Well, again, thank you all for your time and attending. We've left our contact information if you have any further questions, and thank you very much for joining our session today. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Okay, so now is the time for you to enter in your questions. Again, we have Vince, Paul, and Jim on the line with us. So they are here to answer any questions for you guys. Don't all type at once though. But really, someone can type a question.
Actually, I'd echo, if people haven't seen the comments about Eddie's comment about no prepayment penalties or loan origination fees with this loan, that definitely saves financing basis points by doing it that way. That's a true 2% loan if you go the 2% route with Lone Star.
Yes, I have experience doing the 1% because I had experience with Davis-Bacon, so I was able to do the 1%, and it's just as they have said, it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, and you get projects done that you need done. So it's a really great program. So there are no questions. Oh, thank you, Zach. It better be a question. If not, think on your feet. Do you guys have any comments you'd like to add after seeing your presentation that you want to clarify or provide a bit more info?
Well, I mean, like I said, we started this to know how quick it's going. They started installing lights, let's see, beginning of August, and they've already finished my largest high school, which was, I forget how many light bulbs they changed out in about a month's time, and about to start on the second high school, and we'll get majority of it completed before the end of this month.
Yeah, it's a fast process. So Zach with Galena Park has asked, why would CFOs prefer a maintenance note versus a SECO loan process? Can you guys think of a preference for that?
I'll jump in and then I'll maybe let Paul provide some insight as well. I'm not a financial advisor, but at least what I see out in the market is that a CFO would typically prefer a maintenance note because they're more knowledgeable on that funding tool. That's a more common tool for them, and so they're used to that process. There, even I think there's an attorney general opinion threshold with maintenance notes as well. And so I think, at least from my perspective, Jim and Paul, it would be just if the preference is there on a maintenance note, it's because maybe just of a lack of knowledge or visibility of the Lone Star program and how simple it really is.
I totally agree. I think it has everything to do with experience and being confident on how a loan process works. And maintenance notes have been around forever, for a long, long time. But I've experienced both, and the Lone Star loan is an easier process.
Vince or Jim, did you want to add any comments to the presentation?
Not me.
I think so. Just really appreciate this opportunity, Ashley.
Not a problem. Zach is finishing up typing. We'll let him type. But this was the second one in the afternoon. So we have one more presentation in both sessions, since we have 2 sessions running concurrently. We have one more session in each of them. And if you guys, I am working hard. I honestly don't remember if I said this at the beginning of this one or at the end of last one. So I am working hard on getting the presentations uploaded to the Feedly system so that when you go to the agenda, you'll also be able to see the recorded presentation, the live one at the conference, not the pre-recorded presentation, but the one where you guys will be able to see the live Q&A part in the chat box and all of that stuff. So that will be happening. I'm getting through it. It's YouTube and fighting with that. So to close it out, there are a couple more questions. Do you think there is a lack of exposure on the Lone Star option by district financial advisors? That's a great question, because you guys talked about how the CFOs understand other options, but they don't necessarily understand this option. So is there a lack of knowledge about that?
I think that's quite possible that there is. If Eddie's meaning district financial advisors that are outside financial advisors that work for school districts, I think that's possible. I think can do the best we can to reach out to not just outside financial advisors, but also Paul has a great story just to get the CFOs on board internal to school districts. So yeah, the better exposure that SECO and all of us that help entities utilize the SECO program, the more exposure we can get for this, the better.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I would suggest that you bring your CFOs to a TEMA meeting every now and then. The CFO not only needs to know the funding options, they need to be able to feel the savings. They need to know where it's coming from. They don't understand air conditioning from a jet engine, so they need to be brought into the TEMA meetings to see how many other people are getting involved in energy savings, and that energy savings really is the primary cost saver that they've got available to them. Other than laying people off, energy savings where the primary savings is available in a public entity. And we need to get that message across to CFOs.
Having this may be a plus of having this conference virtually after it's over, and having these recorded sessions of taking these sessions on the SECO Lone Star program to your CFOs and letting them have that knowledge about it as well.
Yes, and to add, like CFOs, procurement specialists, any those type of people, they don't have to be energy managers. They can benefit from specific topics that we talk about. So yes, we encourage anybody and everybody to come check it out and see. They might not become a member, but they can come and watch a presentation. Okay, thank you so much, guys. I'm going to close it out now so we can get on to our next presentation, our final one. And then after that will be the happy hour networking, just another networking opportunity for everyone to engage in. So I thank you so much. This was very useful and helpful, and I hope everybody got something out of it. Thank you.
Thanks.